Syracuse basketball got 4 transfer portal additions this offseason, and I think that the most impactful one is going to be either Jaquan Carlos or Eddie Lampkin. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on this week's Poll Friday, I asked you guys the question, who do you think is going to be the most impactful Syracuse basketball transfer portal addition from this offseason? If you recall, over the course of the long offseason, Syracuse basketball got 4 new players from the transfer portal. Yes, they also lost players, but we're only going over the additions on this week's Poll Friday. So the 4 choices, right, just so happen to work out that way. There are 4 options for you guys. Eddie Lampkin, 6'11" center from Colorado. Jyare Davis, 6'7" forward from Delaware. Jaquan Carlos, 6' point guard from Hofstra. And Lucas Taylor, 6'5" guard/forward. He can play both from Georgia State. And that order, by the way, is the order in which those players committed. Eddie Lampkin was very early on in the transfer portal. Jyare Davis and Jaquan Carlos came in mid to late April. And then Lucas Taylor was in, I think, May or June. It was a late one for Lucas Taylor. But those are the 4 transfer portal additions. Those were the 4 choices on this week's Poll Friday. And the results are in. And I agree with the player that won this. There were 315 total votes, and Jaquan Carlos won with 60% of them, followed by Eddie Lampkin at 34%, and Jyare Davis and Lucas Taylor tied with 3% each. And like I said at the top, I think it comes down to 2 players, Jaquan Carlos and Eddie Lampkin, but I ultimately agree with the 60% of you guys that Jaquan Carlos will have the biggest impact for Syracuse basketball, rather, in their transfer portal class. Because at Hofstra, what was Jaquan Carlos advertised as, right? What is he advertised as? First of all, he was a 4-star transfer, just like all these players they got in one form or another on one recruiting service or another, right? So he's obviously pretty good. Jaquan Carlos is not the most flashy guy. Okay, he's not. If you haven't got a chance to watch him in 2 exhibition games, he's not going to wow you with his athleticism. But Jaquan Carlos is like a conductor. That's what he really is. He is someone who is going to settle this offense down, move the ball. He is an excellent passer. And oh, by the way, he can score a little bit, and he is a pretty solid defender. Through exhibition games, the 2 of them, he was exactly as advertised. And I know it's exhibition. You don't want to overreact. But in those exhibition games, I'm really just looking for playing styles. How does this player play? Like, I don't care if they make a shot, miss a shot, whatever. Is Jaquan Carlos in these exhibition games like we were told? And the answer is yes. I think he's going to do an excellent job as the starting point guard for Syracuse basketball this season. He's someone who I'm really coming around on, because when they originally got him and over the course of the summer, I honestly was like, well, could be good depth, good backup point guard. I would hope Chance Westry can fill that role. But now, honestly, I come to think about it, I think Jaquan Carlos is going to be more than fine as the starting point guard for Syracuse basketball. In the first exhibition game, he played team high 31 minutes. And in those 31 minutes, he had 14 points, 10 assists, and no turnovers. Obviously, that's pretty good. In the next exhibition game, he played 21 minutes, so 10 less. And I think the reason why was because Coach Autry was experimenting even more. I imagine that he's going to play 25 to 30 come Monday. He got 6 assists. He didn't score, but he is the type of player, he doesn't need to score to impact the game in a positive way, because he is a floor general point guard. He is not necessarily looking to shoot the basketball when he gets it. He's looking to pass. He's a pass-first point guard. So overall, I think he's really going to help this Syracuse basketball offense, because he is going to be the leader in terms of moving the ball. And on defense, he was an all-conference defender at Hofstra last season. I know the ACC is tougher, but I still think he's going to be a plus defender for Syracuse basketball this season. So therefore, I think that Jaquan Carlos is going to be the most impactful transfer in this four-player transfer portal class for Syracuse basketball in 2024-25. What do you guys think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Leave a comment below. Your thoughts on the most impactful transfer for Syracuse basketball this season. Now, coming up, we'll go over the other choices, and mainly we'll talk about Eddie Lampkin because I think he was a clear second in this poll. Our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby, it's a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, or an agonizing overtime here or there, right? Which is why they've created the Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel. The energy shot made just for super fans like us, the fans who are first in the parking lot and who are last to leave. We see you. And you know what gave me a bit of a Stand the Fan fuel this week? It's when Syracuse basketball returned to the floor for an exhibition game. I know it was only exhibition, but I was really excited to see him, especially in that first game. The second game, of course, I'm always excited to watch him play, but it was that first one where I was like, man, we are so back. And Monday, it's for real for Syracuse basketball. 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. Whether you're prepping for the big tailgate or ironing your jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long. That's why the limited edition Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot is here to help keep you fueled throughout the season. What's your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with a 5 Hour Energy Shot. Available on 5hourenergy.com, shipped nationwide. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win that $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And let's talk about Syracuse basketball. They open the regular season on Monday, November 4th against Lemoyne. Those odds have yet to be released. When those odds are released, be sure to check them out. If you want to, speaking of football, rather, Syracuse football, I believe, is a 3.5-point underdog to Virginia Tech tomorrow. So you can also check that out as well. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Syracuse basketball had 4 players in its transfer portal class from this offseason. We talked about Jaquan Carlos and why I think he's going to be the most impactful transfer. So I agreed with the 60% of you guys on this week's Poll Friday. Let's go over the other choices. Let's start off with Eddie Lampkin because he was a clear second in this poll. And in my opinion, he is also a clear second, right? I agree with you guys on the order, essentially. He's going to have a major impact. And if you asked me this question a few months ago, I would have said that Eddie Lampkin in a landslide is going to be the most impactful transfer because he gives Syracuse a true starting center. That's what he is. This team last year did not have a true starting center. So the fact that you can plug him in as the starting 5 come opening night is already an upgrade. That's an upgrade. 1-for-1 positional upgrade with Eddie Lampkin. He can give you 10 points a game. He's going to rebound at a relatively successful level. And he can also pass. He's a pretty good passer. We saw it at times in the exhibition games, but if you don't really care much about the exhibition games, well, you can go back and look at his highlights at Colorado and at TCU, where he has displayed a very solid ability to pass the basketball, especially someone who's a 6'11 center. All right, so he can pass. And hey, did he add some range? I don't know. But if he added range, that's pretty cool. If he can shoot 3-pointers. He's never attempted one in a regular season or postseason game, so maybe he attempts one against Lemoyne. In fact, I think if Syracuse goes up big against Lemoyne on Monday and Eddie Lampkin for some reason is still in the game, this would be a good problem if they go up big, right? Obviously, we'll take it. Actually, I shouldn't even call it a good problem. Just in general, if Eddie Lampkin is still in the game and let's say Syracuse is up by 20 points, I would love to see him shoot a three. I would love to see it. Just see what happens, right? You got to try it at some point. You tried it in the exhibition. You might as well try it when the stakes aren't super high in the first game of the season if you're up by a lot of points, right? That's all I'm saying. Hope Eddie Lampkin takes my advice on that one. But anyways, let's talk about Jyare Davis, who he personally admitted after the 2 exhibition games that he didn't necessarily play up to his abilities, and I appreciate him taking some accountability for it. I definitely think he got better in the second exhibition game. I think he started to feel a little bit more comfortable, and it makes sense because a guy like Jyare Davis is coming from Delaware, where he was a 2-time all-conference player, good scorer, good rebounder. The ball revolved around him. The offense was him. Think of him as like the sun in the solar system. He was that Delaware team. Now he's coming over to Syracuse, where in all likelihood, he's coming off the bench come opening night, right? He can play not guard. He can play forward, right? He's a 3 or a 4, depending on where you want to play him. He's 6'7", got good size. But I think Chris Bell is going to be the starting small forward. Donnie Freeman is going to be the starting power forward in all likelihood. And Eddie Lampkin is going to be the starting center. So that means Jyare Davis is going to be coming off the bench. I don't think he's going to be a go-to guy for Syracuse basketball. So it's going to be in a little bit of an adjustment for him. But still, it's a good addition because you know that based on his abilities from Delaware, that if Syracuse is ever in a position where he's on the floor and they need a bucket, they can go to Jyare Davis and he can get them that bucket. So he's definitely going to play an impactful role. He's just not going to average 17 points and 8 rebounds like he did last season at Delaware because they're not going to ask him to do that at Syracuse. And finally, you got Lucas Taylor, who is part of a cluttered guard room, to say the least. I think he can bring a lot of athleticism and perhaps a little bit of shooting off the bench as well. Last year, he shot 35% from three-point range over at Georgia State. I get it. It's Georgia State, but 35% is 35%. The three-point line is still the same in college basketball over there. And in a limited sample at Wake Forest the year before, yes, Lucas Taylor has played in the ACC before. He was at Wake Forest for 2 years before going over to Georgia State. Wake Forest 2 seasons ago, not his freshman year, so just 2 seasons ago, he shot 40% from 3, albeit in a very limited sample. It was 12 games. He shot about 2 threes a game, but he made 40% of them. Take that for what it's worth. So he can maybe provide a little bit of athleticism and shooting off the bench. So Lucas Taylor, he should have a solid role for this team this upcoming season. I think overall, going through all the choices, I still will stick with the fact that I think Jaquan Carlos will be the most impactful. But I think all of the transfers that Syracuse basketball brought in this offseason are going to have some sort of productive role. What do you think? Leave a comment in the comment section below the roles you think each transfer is going to play this season for Syracuse basketball. I think they're going to have a pretty productive year, all 4 of them. As far as what's coming up on the podcast, well, tomorrow, Syracuse football is hosting Virginia Tech at noon Eastern. Of course, there's going to be a post-game reaction podcast to hopefully a Syracuse win. But guess what? Win or lose, Locked On Syracuse is going to be there for you. So we'll have a post-game reaction show to that one. Hopefully it's a Syracuse win. Sunday, I think I'm probably going to do a full podcast. And then Monday night, Syracuse basketball opens the regular season against Lemoyne. And of course, there's going to be a post-game reaction, not a 10 to 15 minute recap like it was in the exhibition games, right? The exhibition games were a warm-up, a tune-up. Even for me, myself, 10 to 15 minutes talking about it. Nothing major, right? Well, come on Monday night, hopefully after a Syracuse basketball opening night win, there will be a full post-game reaction to the game. So be on the lookout for that as well. Thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen today. And for your second listen, check out the Locked On ACC podcast. Check out the ACC squad episode from yesterday. It was a good one. I had to take my lumps, but it's all good. Alex Dono and Kenty Gibbs, they keep it real on Locked On ACC, and they bring you the truth about where your favorite team stands within the conference. Find Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you liked this video, click that like button. If you really liked it, subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications so you know right away when I am dropping the next podcast. And everyone, take care.